First presenter is Mr. Ricky Minor.
Such a surreal moment for me. You know, I got a chance to meet Chuck Rainey for the first time, and you know, listened to a lot of records, and now I'm here because of my love for Abraham. It was 1977, and I bought this record. This guy that everyone was raving about, Al Jarreau, Look to the Rainbow, and I felt something. It was I heard the record, but I felt something, and something that kind of hit me in a place where I'd never really, you know, I was playing bass and I was, you know, doing my gigs, but I felt something, and I wanted to feel that again. So I listened to that record, and then it, you know, until it turned white because I just played over, and then I found and bought another one, and I listened to it, and the feeling was so amazing. And then I found out that Abraham was playing at the Baked Potato, and I didn't really have the money to get in, so I hung out by the back door until somebody left, and then I kind of snuck in. And I really wasn't old enough to be in there to buy a drink or anything, so I kind of hid out. But I walked up to Abraham, and nervous, you know, because, you know, musicians, you know, you just never know how they're going to be. But he was cool, you know, because sometimes they like, okay, they go away, kid, you bother me. But he was cool. He's like, you know, what are you doing? Hi, brother. You know, always kind, always a kind word. And I remember that, and he was always, and has never changed, has been that same guy to me. And I was playing, so then I had that to look up to, and I was fortunate to go on tour with Al Jarreau. And I had those shoes to fill, and I thought, and I went to Al and I said, you know, you have all these great bass players who have worked with you, and I'm, you know, and Nathan East and Freddie Washington and all these guys that played with you. And I was nervous, and he said, I'll tell you what Abe would say. He would say that you are here because of what you bring to the music. It's always what you bring to the music. Your gift is enough. And I've taken that with me always, and knowing that and Abe was there in Japan and had flown into Japan to do a record or do some work there, and I hadn't seen him in all that time, and he came to an Al Jarreau gig that I was playing, and they said Abe's there in the audience, you know. So I played, and the show was over, and I looked for Abe, and there was no Abe. He was gone. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe my gift wasn't enough. Because he was like, no, that's not the way it's done. So I was, you know, I thought, well, maybe I wouldn't see him. I wouldn't get a chance to see him. And I got to the hotel room, and my light was blinking. And there was a wonderful message from Abe saying, hey, I just flew in, I'm a little jet lagged. I just came back. I want to tell you, brother, be encouraged. And that's the thing he said to me just minutes ago. Be encouraged and encouraged. So thank you, Abe. Thank you.
I've known Abe for, it must be going on 40 years now, when we both had dark hair and I had more of it. And I just want to say, first off, I've never known a musician who wears his joy of music and family and life better than Abe does. When you see him performing, he's like the burning bush. He's this nuclear explosion that takes place. And I was just thinking back, watching, I told Abe I was going to tell this story, but I was watching an old Tonight Show. It wasn't old. When it was on, it was on. But with Johnny Carson, and Lee Ritenour was the guest on the show. And so and Johnny goes, here, I'd like to, and he's Lee Ritenour. And they come out and play, and there's, the music starts, and there's Lee standing there like this, and there's Abe eating up the entire stage up there. And I thought anybody in the audience who's watching this thinks he's Lee Ritenour, because it's the only thing you ever look at when the band's playing. He's the most commanding presence on stage. But I know we're short on time, and I want to hear these guys play. So I just want to say I love this man dearly. When he sent me a note and asked me to do this, I was so humbled and kind of just brought a tear to my eye, because he's one of the wells that I've drawn from in this business, both as a human being and as a musician. I've never known a better musician in my life and a better human being in my life than Abe.
Abraham, bass player, is proud to present to you our Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you.
When did music take hold of your life?
From the time I was born, my father remembers that when I was 2 years old, I stood up in front of the radio and I started to conduct, and I had never seen anybody conduct. Wow. So it was part of me always. Yeah.
It's in your DNA. That's beautiful. Do you remember some of the first artists that you heard that moved you and wanted to?
Primarily classical music in those days, music of Tchaikovsky and Beethoven, Mozart. Then my father was a singer, songwriter, composer, and in the house about maybe once a week there would be these bohemian parties. So I was able to hear music of all styles.
Yeah, what part of the country did you grow up
I was born and raised in Mexico City, Mexico. My parents are Honduran from Central America. We belong to an ethnic group called Garifuna, and that word means Black Caribbean.
Amazing. Now, obviously, you inspired a lot of people in your playing. Tell us about some of the first sessions you got involved in that started creating the buzz around your playing.
Well, my first 2 recording sessions took place in Boston. I had only been playing electric bass for 1 year, but I've been a musician all my life. The first one was in 1971 with Gary Burton for a record called The New Quartet for ECM, and it was Gary's first record for ECM. The second session was in the same studio in Boston and the name of the record was Avenging Annie with Andy Pratt for Discos Columbia. You know.
Fantastic. Now, where did it take off from there? Talk about some of the
After
artists
that,
that led to.
then I went on the road with Johnny Mathis and Henry Mancini and Michel Legrand. Then we moved to Los Angeles in 1976, and as of 1976 to date, I've been invited to participate in more than 5,000 recording sessions by now.
Man, that's amazing. Now, obviously, they want you to bring your flavor to the session, but what is your theory when you come in to join somebody's session? What is your mindset?
That there's an attitude of being a servant with your instrument, and to be available to make music that makes people feel that they can ask of me whatever they need to make their song successful. You know.
It's amazing. What are some of the most memorable moments? Is there
It's hard to tell.
So
The first 2 that I mentioned were my very first 2. The very first time I recorded in Los Angeles, I came as a guest of Henry Mancini. And in that recording session, he introduced me to Lee Ritenour, Joe Sample, Harvey Mason, Dennis Budimir, Artie Kane, and Mill Richards. All of these musicians were the top recording musicians in Los Angeles, and all of them opened their doors for me to move to LA eventually.
that's amazing. Now, the business has changed so much. Technology has, grown so many different ways, but still, one's sound, one's style is something that you have to create from within. What advice do you give to the young players, the young creative people today? What do they need to concentrate on to have any kind of
There are
longevity?
some things musically that are timeless, and it has to do with people doing what they love and doing it because they love it. And that is timeless. My advice to young people is to discover why they love music so much, and then to not lose track of that every time they play their instrument, to do it with their whole heart. Eventually, those people that are looking for them will find them, and the people that they are looking for, they will also find them. The business is changing in drastic ways, but the need for real, beautiful music has not changed. And people recognize it when they hear it, and they start wanting to be around it more and more.
No matter how much technology grows, it'll never replace the human
Exactly,
spirit.
exactly.
Fantastic. Thanks again for your
My
honor.
love.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here.